Elliot Johnson, my friend, former big leaguer, former Brave, among others, joins us. He's a legend with the Tampa Bay Rays and Durham Bulls. Joins us on the Adam Gold Show. This is the time, man. We're almost in September. Next week from today is September. Last 5 weeks of the regular season. As a player, does it feel different to you when you get to this part of the year?
Yes, especially if you're going up against who you're chasing or you're going up against who is chasing you. It absolutely makes the biggest difference because it's one game every time. And the frustrating thing really, so if you think about it, Adam, like when you win and the team you're chasing wins, that doesn't hurt as much. What hurts is when you lose and they lose because you missed the opportunity to gain a full game. Those are the ones that really are painful. And so going head to head, ultimately, I can remember vividly, we had this reporter come through our clubhouse and it was a terrible question. Like, how big is this game? We're playing the Yankees. And I was like, not important at all. And she did not like that answer. But ultimately, you're trying to win 92, 93 games. It doesn't matter how you get them. The Yankees didn't even make the playoffs that year. We did. So it really wasn't all that relevant, So if you think about it that way, sure, you can claim that regular season victories against an opponent matter. But ultimately, when you get to the playoffs, it doesn't really matter anymore because it's a completely new season, and all you have to do is win every series to win the World Series.
That's right. And baseball's postseason is the biggest crapshoot. We don't have to go back too far. We had, I think, 5 versus 6 in terms of the seeds, right? When it was that Philadelphia and Texas in the World Series that year? 5 versus 6? I
don't remember. I don't remember exactly how it played out, but when we get there, Adam, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you're dancing. And if you don't lose the series the rest of the way, you get a ring. I mean, that's literally what they tell you. And like even the Nationals that won, was it 2019 when they won? They slid in on a wild card and they were hot at the time. So it's not the best team; it's the hottest team. The '07 Rockies. Remember how hot they were? They didn't lose a single game until they ran into the Red Sox in the World Series. So you really don't know how it's going to play out.
I think they won 21 of 22 down the stretch to make the playoffs. Yeah. It was the most incredible thing, and I don't know that they've won a game since. Are the Brewers, Elliot Johnson, the best? I know they are by record, but I thought this before they even caught the Cubs. And I said this to Victoria, who's a big Cubs fan, and I know you grew up a Cubs fan. I was like, I'm not sure the Brewers aren't the best team in baseball. Are they the best team in baseball?
No.
Okay.
No, the Brewers, they've got momentum right now.
It's been 3 months of momentum.
They're good, Adam. They are.
Okay.
They quietly have a really good, scrappy baseball team. I don't think they have enough pitching to be able to sustain.
Okay.
The Cubs have star power, and the problem for them is they're streaky good, streaky bad. So like Pete Crow Armstrong, one of the best players in the game this year. Kyle Tucker, he's playing with a fracture, supposedly, is the reasoning for why he's struggling. Whether or not that's true is another story. You can manufacture anything at this point of the year, but really he's turned down a lot of money to try and test free agency is what it's kind of about. We can talk about that more if you want, but the Cubs have star power. They're expecting to win. Council just needs to settle them down and get back to it. I think the Cubs are still the best team, but the Brewers are clearly, they don't really care about winning on paper because they're doing everything they can to win that division.
Cubs best team in the National League, best team in baseball, or best team in their division?
Probably the best team in the division.
Okay.
It's hard to be able to say that they're somehow better than the Dodgers, and even the Padres are playing outstanding baseball too. They got a great roster. So those are usually the two teams that are duking it out west, where their GM is routinely sacrificing his farm system for winning this year. It seems like they do that every year, kind of like Dombrowski in Philly every single year. And they're like, you want these prospects? It's like, you don't have any prospects. You traded them all away already.
So let me ask you real quick about the Yankees and the Red Sox, because Boston has had a weird year. Like throughout the season, throughout the first 3 months of the season, if you pay attention to what they're saying about the team, it's as though they're no good. They're not trying to win. And maybe this is still some kind of carryover from allowing Mookie Betts or trading Mookie Betts to the Dodgers for not a great haul. But Boston has played some really good baseball. They've got great young players. And until last night, they had owned the Yankees. They had won, I believe, 8 in a row against New York. And there are a couple of games, I think one or a game and a half ahead in the wild card race. How do you forecast New York and Boston?
So I was raised right to not like the Yankees, being a Cubs fan, especially, when the boss was there and always bringing
Yeah.
over every single free agent or, rental. He would go out and get the rental, the Raul Mondesies of the world, the Gary Sheffields of the world,
Ruben
going and getting
Sierra.
Giambi. Yeah, Ruben Sierra. But so like my dad would always hate because the Cubs let Maddox walk and he went to Atlanta, right? And so the boss would always go and spend money and bring him in, which, you think about it in hindsight, as a fan of the Yankees, you have to be grateful that your boss does everything he can to win. He doesn't care. He wants to win. I think that's a wonderful thing for our game. I think it's good to have an evil empire to shoot for. But you have to really respect the fact that he was willing to do whatever it took to make sure his roster was as good as possible for October every year. Okay. So I think Roman Anthony is one of the great players in the making. They have probably my favorite nickname. They have the password now in Boston,
Yes.
is his name, and he's good, really good. Him and the young guy in Tampa, what's his name? Candelario. I can't
Uh-huh.
think of his name. He is freaking really good. He's going to hit 40 home runs a year. It'll be interesting to see if he can beat Longo's home runs totals that he was able to amass in Tampa for as many years as he did. But he's really, really good, and like those are some of the best players that are up and coming right now. So I think Boston is doing a good job of being in a position to challenge the Yankees all the time. They don't really care. I really like Fried. Of course, Judge is one of the best players in the world. But the Yankees need to address shortstop in a hurry. That's getting out of hand, and they're going to have to do something pretty quick and decide what the heck they're going to do. I think they've seen enough already to know what they have, and they're going to have to make a determination if they can find something that's more of an improvement, especially after Jeter left. That's a pretty
Right.
big shoes to fill, no doubt. I don't care who you are. But they need to do something in a hurry. So I like the Red Sox long term. This year, the Yankees are still too much. They're going to get healthy and they're going to be fine. Um, the Blue Jays have been really surprising.
Yep.
The Orioles have been surprisingly bad and disappointing. How much that with expectations there, and it doesn't seem like the GM has the chutzpah, whatever you want to call it, to go and actually try to improve the roster when you had the opportunity to do so. So they're going to have to make a transition from collecting talent to assembling talent to be able to win in October, and they haven't really made that step yet.
You talked about Yankee shortstop Anthony Volpe has been like this is the new guy, not the next Jeter, because that's unfair to everybody, but he has been disappointing this year. Jose Caballero is somebody they just acquired via trade. He played last night, and Aaron Boone had kind of raved about him, but also late in the game they brought Volpe in. He went to short, and Caballero went out into right field. It is interesting to see this player transition in these teams. And now we get to something I wanted to ask, two things I wanted to ask you about that don't necessarily have anything to do with the sport itself, the game as we play them. We've got the prospect of expansion. And Raleigh is one of those teams that has been mentioned as a potential location for an expansion franchise. My guess is one goes in the West and one goes somewhere in the East, probably the Southeast. Raleigh could be it, but I can't imagine it's not going to be Nashville. What's your take on whether or not baseball should expand or will expand? What odds do you give Raleigh of being one of those cities?
Look, I mean, I'm very much biased, right? Because I think that the ideal stadium location would be kind of catty corner to Lenovo right now, where the Hurricanes
Right?
are, and the vision for recreating the Battery in Atlanta would work here.
Yeah.
It would be fine if they could put it right there next to right there off Edwards Mill would make so much sense, Adam. It would be right there, and you could have walkways and so on and so forth. It could be beautiful. It could be perfect. Okay, and I live around the corner, so I'm very biased.
Yeah.
So I think it would make so much sense to do that. The Bulls could be the AAA team. It could be really similar to the Braves because Gwinnett County or Gwinnett Braves are right there, and then the major league team is there. There was a really good economist put out some interesting numbers on how much better the Raleigh market is than Charlotte.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's necessarily as relevant because I think they're competing more so with Nashville, which already has almost signed, sealed, delivered team, if you will, Adam. I'm not saying it's done, but it feels like Nashville is all but done in terms of being the next team for expansion. And then you're right. It seems like they want to have a Western team, whether it be Salt Lake or Portland, for realignment. So the realignment thing is coming into view more so because of TV. So if you can pull people in to watch, the Salt Lake, whomever, Bees is what they're called now in AAA, but whoever that team ends up being, you can start to pull in viewership from Montana and wherever else, Wyoming. I know there's not very many people that live there, but you can start to create a more regional network. And I think that's what they're targeting is these dollars in TV deals, Adam. So unfortunately for us, as much as I would love to have the team in Raleigh, and I think it would make so much sense, and it would be really beneficial for me be able to take my family to a Major League Baseball team, game here, a couple minutes from the house. It would make so much sense to do that. I think we're kind of really sledding uphill. I appreciate what they're trying to do, and I'm happy to help any way that I possibly can, but it seems like it's going to be Nashville, Salt Lake, or Portland just for realignment purposes. But, of course, I would do everything I can to politic to try and get a team here in Raleigh.
I do think that Raleigh might be a candidate for a relocation if, because they have a lot of things to sort out in Tampa, if that ended up being a case where they had to leave that city. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that will happen. I think they're more of they're more of a candidate for a relo than I think they are an expansion team. Well, real quick, why Major League Baseball, and the NFL is the same way, by the way, where we don't have East and West. We have East and West within conferences, or in the Major League Baseball within the league, National League and the American League. The NHL and the NBA do Eastern and Western Conference. Why couldn't we have something like that in Major League Baseball? Be gooder? Wow. Be better for travel purposes. Why wouldn't we go that route?
So the travel thing, just so you know, Adam, is like if you have a laundry list of 50 things that you're looking for, the supposed easier travel for players is towards the bottom end of that totem pole. Okay,
Right.
they really don't care about players. As soon
Sure.
as I hear anything relative to players or player safety, I automatically know that there's something that has to do with money that benefits Major League Baseball first and second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, and then player safety is somewhere on the bottom there. Because the players are so replaceable at this point. If you guys go to a Durham Bulls game, you'll see 10 big leaguers at any given moment, probably, or maybe more. That's how good the guys in AAA are today. They're very much replaceable and interchangeable from your Major League Baseball player that you think is really, really good. There are a bunch of them that are just as good in AAA waiting, and sometimes better. Because what they're doing now is they're actually holding guys in AAA, negotiating with them to get them to agree to a deal that's team friendly before they call them up, kind of similar to what they did with Roman Anthony. You can't tell me that one day they woke up and they were like, "Oh, this guy's now worthy of 130 million." I doubt that was the case. He's been good for a while, Adam.
Right.
So I think the realignment thing is interesting, but underneath the surface, what they're trying to do is renegotiate a lot of these deals. And they're trying to say, look, we can get these TV opportunities in X amount more households who will tune in, and that correlates to X amount of dollars. That's really what they're doing behind the scenes.
Elliot Johnson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. All right, final thing, and I know you and I are going to talk more as we get closer to the end of the season anyway, so we'll get more into the teams and the teams that you think are going to be there at the very end. But there's been a push, and we saw it, I believe, in the All-Star game for automated strike zones. I've already had my piece about this. I am against, like a robot, the radar gun lasers telling me what's a strike and what's not a strike. How do you feel as a player, as somebody who stood in there and owned Max Scherzer, but when you stood in there, your thoughts on the laser beams telling you what's a strike and what's not.
Okay. I like the human element to our game, Adam. Okay. What I don't like is the bureaucracy of, keeping mediocre umpires up there when we
Thank
know
you.
we can get better umpires up there. Like, what are we doing? So, I don't care how old you are, and I don't care anything else. We have our first female umpire. If all of our umpires are women, Adam, nobody cares. Just be good at your job.
Right.
If they're 95% success rate at calling balls and strikes, let's get them. Who cares where they're from? Who cares what language they speak? It doesn't matter. Bring them in, all merit based. If you're really, really good at your job, we want you. We want you in our game because, a good umpire is like, you don't really notice that they're there, Adam, because you're just tuning in to watch the baseball game at hand. So they exist. The bureaucracy needs to be broken up. And I don't know, what goes on with the umpires union and all that sort of stuff. That's probably what's holding things up. But Manfred could create a different way, and I think maybe this is the way that he's driving that wedge into the umpires union. But in reality, they do have umpires that sometimes call. I think DJ Rayburn called 100% game earlier this year, Adam. Maybe he just calls 100% of his games. Maybe that's just what we do, is we just keep him behind the dish. And because he's the best rated umpire, let's leave him behind the dish,
Right.
and pitchers can complain, but the rules are throw it over the plate and you follow the rules just like everybody else. I get a little upset when, we get some of these umpires like Phil Cuzzy, who claims that he knows the rules better than everyone else and he's going to call it 6 inches below your knee today just because that's how he feels today. That's a joke. The rules are from, your basically your belly button to your knee, and it's got to go over the plate, and this acceptable crap has got to go to the wayside. So it's likely that they're doing this as a means to kind of create a wedge with the umpires union, but bring in the best, remove the guys that aren't any good, or girls, and bring in the ones that are actually really good at their job. And you can quantify it. I know this because they do it, and we did it when we were playing too, Adam.
Right.
You can see the guys that are good and the ones that aren't, remove the bad ones and keep the good ones. It's just like the players. I don't see why it needs to be any different for the umpires.
They keep stats on all these things. Like, we all follow different umpire auditors, whatever they are, and they give you stats. And I don't even think it's 95%. We're 95% accurate because we're talking about maybe 20 to 30 borderline pitches a game. What is your accuracy level on those? Can you be 75% accurate on those? And then your numbers for over the course of a game, and a 300 pitch game, would probably be 98%, because there aren't that many calls that are just below or just inside or outside. To me, that's it. And we should keep stats on that. And what you just said is something I said a couple of weeks ago. Like, if you're good at home plate, you should always ump home plate. Why I don't want to waste you at third base. Just ump the plate, and this way, like Laz Diaz can still have a job.
Well, and think about it this way: if you call 100% game, maybe he gets a bonus for calling 100% game. I don't care. Let it be merit based. Pay him more. We need more guys like that behind the plate, because here's the problem. I'll give you your Mets guys a shout out. A Garner native,
Nolan McClain.
He throws the best spin rate breaking ball in the show. So you start teaching him to throw 3,000 plus spin at the bottom of the zone, and it clips the bottom of the zone. Otherwise, even if it's a strike, you have catchers that are blocking strikes, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want that in our game. We really don't. Because what will happen is you start teaching all your guys spin rate breaking ball, throw it at the bottom, clip the bottom of the zone. Now we have guys, and our game turns into glorified cricket versus baseball, and I don't think we want that.
Although I do fancy a good cricket match. Elliot Johnson, the man. I appreciate your time, sir. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Elliot Johnson here on the Adam Gold Show.